approached to host and to cover the final for it. It was streamed on BBC. It was crazy. We were at this point, we're thinking, you know what, we've made it. All the work we've done it is worth it. But like, we've always given back, and I still do that now. Like back X's and O's, it was giving people opportunities they would never have had. Yeah, putting the spotlight on them, putting them on socials, getting their story, capturing their story. We even went out to so in Germany or Europe, there's a bigger American football scene than there is over here, and we have guys we know personally who play for these teams in Europe who are bigger teams than anything the UK has in a minute.
What's up, guys? Coach David here, and I'm glad to welcome you all to another episode of the Beyond the Athlete podcast. And guys, today we have a special guest, and I'd say this for all our guests. All our guests are special, but today we're actually going into a different sort of sports. Beyond the Athlete is not just a basketball podcast, but it's for all sports. And today we have none other. He has to let me know if I say his name right, because I didn't want to ask him how to pronounce his surname. I wanted to challenge myself, basically. Mr. George Egertor.
Spot on.
Okay, cool.
Not a lot of people get that right first time,
really?
So I appreciate it. Yeah.
That's good. George is a former American football player. He's now also content creator. Played running back for 11 years for London Blitz.
Yeah, London Blitz are one of the teams for sure, yeah.
Okay. Kent Exiles. Brighton
Tsunami, but they're now known as the Brighton Panthers, so that's a uni team.
Nice. And then you're also a podcast host as well.
Yeah.
George on Sports.
That's the one.
Nice. So two hosts together.
That's
Maybe
it.
We should do something together as
Maybe
well.
we should, bro.
We'll see how it goes. But yeah, George is like, I know you have a collaboration with Minnesota Vikings as well, NFL team.
Yeah, there's a few different, like I said before we start shooting, different hats.
Nice.
And they come at different times, but yeah.
Yeah, so George is pretty much a pioneer for American football in Europe, one of the biggest out there. So yeah, George, welcome on the podcast. It's a pleasure to have you.
I appreciate you having me, man. I was saying before, it's been a while since I've, number one, been on the other side of hosting, and number two, it's been a while since I've actually jumped on the mic for a pod, because when the season comes around, being the NFL season, things just ramp up for me, so I don't get time to jump on the mic per se and do my pods. But it's great to be sitting here, man. I'm looking forward to this one.
Amazing. Obviously, I know we've been trying to get this conversation going, but like you said, NFL has been happening throughout, not just London, but Europe as well, and you've been busy doing your thing.
Yeah, man. It's not easy.
I know it's not.
It's not easy, but it's. I'm blessed to be in the position that I'm in. Like I said, the moment the NFL season comes around, which is, well, technically August for training camps and pre-season, and then September, the regular season starts, all the way through to the Super Bowl in February.
Yeah.
It's literally non-stop. So you mentioned we've been trying to get this thing off the ground. I think I'd not long come back from Germany for the NFL game there, which is great. But like I said, it just means that we got a lot going on. It's but we'll get into it, because there's so many different hats. Different hats, but it's good. It's a good place to be.
Cool. So we like to start off with history, your beginnings, when you were a kid. What inspired you or influenced you? First of all, were you even into sports when you were younger? And if you were, what influenced you into the world of sports?
All right, taking it back. So I was that kid at primary school who would get seconds and thirds, and if there was possible, fourths. That's me. Like, I love my food, right? Always that guy. So I got about, when I joined my secondary school, so I went to secondary school in East Finchley, school called Bishop Douglas, and they built a gym. So I was in year 9, I think, at this point, and I wasn't really into kind of any physical activity, which some people might find interesting, because my life is completely 360 from them. And they built a gym, and I said to myself, I'm going to start working out. And that's basically what I did. I started working out, and I thought, let me get myself into sport. So it started with football, as in traditional UK football, or soccer, if you're listening to this in the States. And I joined a team in North London. We trained a couple of times a week, played a couple of games, and I was kind of like, you know what? I don't like this people diving on the floor and rolling around when there's stuff we see in a sport now, right? And then I quickly realized I'm more of a contact sport guy. I wanted to light people up. I wanted to make the tackles. I wanted people to know that I was there. So I went home one day after this football session. I was like, Mum was sitting there, and there was on the TV was rugby. And I looked at looked on the screen and I saw a guy holding the ball. The guy's name is Ugo Monyo. He's an England legend. Met the guy. I told him my story, which has been great. But I saw him carrying the ball. And I said to myself, whatever this sport is, you get to hold the ball and run. I said, I know I'm quick. I got good hands. This is what I need to be doing. And I get to hit people legally. So I was like, yeah, this is it. This is me. So I looked up online for the next team located around me, and then I found Finchley. So this is Finchley RFC. So I remember I dropped the guy an email. The guy's coach name was Gareth at the time. I was like, I've just found the sport. I'm not too far away from you. Like, it's bus 263 straight up to East Finchley. I can rock with you guys. He was like, yeah, come down on Sunday and we'll give you a try. So I rocked up on Sunday and they were like, oh, we've actually got a game. Unbeknown to me, I had no idea. I thought I was coming to just have a look around. Like, I didn't know how it worked. And then he was like, all right, so have you got a pair of boots? I said, yeah, because the email says bring a pair of boots. But there was a game, and I was like, okay, am I playing? He was like, yeah. Here's your shirt. I said, you do know I don't know what I'm doing, right? He was like, no, it's cool. So he said, where do you want to play? I said, well, I'm fast and I got good hands. So he was like, all right, let's try you at winger. So the wingers in rugby, for those who don't know, are the guys on the outside, tend to be the quicker guys who, essentially, your job is to run down the field and put the ball down. Only difference was, they gave me the ball. I'm on this grass field. I got these guys in front of me. And I was like, number one, ain't no one about to get hands on me because I don't want to get hit. So I literally grabbed, I was given the ball, ran as fast as I could down the sideline, but I ran too far and out of the try zone to no man's land and put the ball down. I turned around and everyone's screaming at me again, what are you doing? What are you doing? I was like, what do you mean? Haven't I just scored? But obviously, because I didn't know what I was doing, and I did warn them, I had run out of bounds and put the ball down way past the try zone. But that was my introduction to rugby. And I fell in love with the sport immediately. So I started coming back, training a couple times a week, and I found that was me. I had found my sport, rugby. And then I got to uni. So I left sixth form, lower sixth, upper sixth, and I went to uni in Brighton University. And when you go to uni, you go to something called a sports fair or a freshers fair, where you sign up to societies or sports clubs, and that was the number one thing on my list. Go to the fair and join the local rugby team. So I found the team. They had a big stand, like they had they had rugby balls, they had guys in the uniform. I'm thinking, okay, this is what I want to do. I have a conversation with the guys. This is my first year at uni. And they're like, yeah, you look like you got good size. What position? I'm getting excited. They're hyping me up. I'm thinking, yeah, I'm ready. And then they tell me, okay, this is where we train and this is where we play. And it was like an hour plus from where I lived. And I didn't drive in my first year of uni. So immediately, like, my heart sunk. I was like, what am I supposed to do now? I got to turn it down. And I had to turn it down because I couldn't do it. But right next to the rugby stand was, I now know, was an American football stand. So it had these other bunch of guys. They had double the space. They had guys in pads. They had guys in helmets. They had cheerleaders and a massive screen with like highlights. And I'm looking at this thinking, these guys are getting to tackle each other with no repercussions, and there's still a ball involved, and there's still an element of rugby. So I was like, whatever this is what I'm going to do next. And I remember then thinking back to, so I'm from North London, and the local team near me was London Blitz. They were like 5-6 times champs. Things have changed now, so it's not the same. But I remember seeing them train one time at Market Road, and I thought to myself, that's odd. Guys wearing helmets, and this isn't rugby, so what is it? But that memory came to my mind at that point. So I signed up, didn't look back. Went to my first training session, and instantly it was a hit. Instantly. And I said to myself, where has this sport been my entire life? Like, had I known about this sport, I would have tried to make it pro from day one. So that's how I fell into the sport. I guess you could say it was kind of accidental because I wanted to play rugby, but I couldn't. So I just looked for the next best contact sport that was going to give me the same kind of vibe. Went to my first training session. For those who know about the positions, you have offense and defense. Offense, you have to score points, and defense, you stop them from doing it. Plain and simple. I picked wide receiver, which is similar to a winger in rugby. You use your speed to get down the field, except now you've got someone who's directly, coming after you, and they're called a corner. So they're your man-to-man defender. So, I played receiver for my first year, ended up tearing my groin in my first year completely, so I missed half the season. And then in my second year, they were like, oh, we need people to fill in at running back. Now, running back is a position, the only way for me to explain it is when the play starts, you're either given the ball and you have two choices. You either run through people or run around them. And for me, that was my calling. Again, I was like, let me try that. So I stepped in the position to try it out in practice. And again, immediately fell in love with it because it tends to be man on man in terms of if you get given this ball, you have to run a particular route or run a particular way. And there's normally a guy there waiting for you. that's where I relish. That's the kind of stuff that I like because it's no one's going to know it. I'm either going to run you over or you're about to take me out, and that's the kind of thing that I like. So I was like, this is me. I'm a running back. That's what I'm gonna do. Traditionally I'm a bit taller than most running backs, which means it's easier for guys to bring me down because of the height. But the contact was it for me. I love the idea of being able to run through guys and impose my will. So I picked up running back from my second year of uni. I played it for 11 years total. It comes with so many different things. Injuries, absolutely.
Oh, 100%.
I don't know any one person who has played this sport and has walked away injury free. Like I just had surgery this year actually on my shoulder. I got 2 kids as well. I'm married, so I had to make sure that I was doing things the right way. But I can't say enough about the sport. I really can't.
Yeah, that position running back, I think it's people kind of my height that normally play running back, but they're quite stocky.
Yeah.
It's I would say American football is one of my favorite sports as well. And I used to be a Green Bay Packers fan.
Used to be. What happened?
I don't know. I'm transitioning now. I'm transitioning now. I've not picked a team yet, but I'm still thinking about it.
The question is, why are you transitioning? Because technically, Green Bay is your team. If that's your team, that's
because,
your team.
Do you know why? Because when I was supporting Green Bay, I was still kind of like still understanding the sport.
Right.
And I think that was like the first team I ever like really watched the game. And I was so sucked in by Aaron Rodgers and how he played. Like, because as a basketball player, I play point guard. So, like, I'm always going to be connected to the quarterbacks because of how they can manipulate the game and how they control the narrative of the game, their passing and stuff like that. Then because you look at someone like a LeBron James and how he passes the ball, and then you look at someone like Aaron Rodgers or Patrick Mahomes and all these guys, and like you're thinking like, damn, like that's cold. Like that's what I look for. I'm not looking for the person that's going to score a touchdown. I'm looking for how is he going to get a pass through all these players, and it's pinpoint on the money as well. So I'm still kind of thinking of what team to support very soon. So
Green Bay are not a bad team right now though. They're not bad right now. You would have seen it. I'm a Colts fan. You probably won't meet another Colts fan in the UK in your life. I'm probably one of the only ones.
Oh, wow.
And it was very, very random for me. Like when I first got into the game at uni, there's a video game series called Madden, which is similar to FIFA for football. Madden is for NFL, American football. Sorry. And I remember telling myself, whatever team I put the game in for the first time. This is like going back years now. Put the game in. And with any sports game, it asks you to pick a team at the start. So I said, all right, before this screen loads up, whatever team comes up first, that's it. That's my NFL team. I ain't doing no research. I'm not looking at where they're based. I'm not looking at who the quarterback is. I'm not looking at colour of uniform. And the first thing that come up was a horseshoe. And I'd never seen it before. Turns out it was the Colts, Indianapolis Colts, and that was my team. But at the time, the reason why they were the team to select is because they had a guy called Peyton Manning, who Hall of Fame quarterback, his brother as well, Eli Manning, who will soon be in the Hall of Fame. And he went on and did some good things for us. Won a Super Bowl with the Colts before moving on to the Broncos, and also won a Super Bowl there. But they were the team at the time. So that was my team. But they're not a high market team like Green Bay Packers or the Jets in New York or the Giants. People don't talk about the Colts. So it's a big surprise when people go, you're a Colts fan? Like, I'm repping them right now.
I see.
Like I said, I've just come back from filming my NFL show. So honestly, this sport has done so many things for me personally.
Tell us a bit more about that though.
Yeah, where do I start? Okay, so I think the main thing is playing the sport. I mean, you don't have to play the sport to be a fan of the sport, but number one, it helps you understand the sport so much more because, and a quick example, like I've done it for 11, I did it for 11 years, sorry. There's nothing quite like putting on your helmet, stepping on the field, and you can see the opposition, the other sideline, and they're wanting to knock your head off. Like as a running back, that's what they want to do. They want to put me in the ground, essentially. They want to stop me from doing anything. So me knowing that, it's a war. Every single game is a war. You come out of this game with cuts, bruises, broken bones, like most contact sport. But there's something about the brotherhood of playing American football where, like, you know, you're on the field with your guys and everyone's got to do their job. Otherwise, the whole thing crumbles, right? Like the offensive line are the big guys up front who have to block for the quarterback and the running back. If they're not blocking, I'm going to get beat up real bad. So everything is chained together. But in terms of what the sport has done for me, I mean, like I said, there's a whole heap of things, and I'll go to the start from my last 5 years of playing. a group of us who were all on the Kent Exiles. There were about 7 or 8 of us. We let's say you finish a game of basketball and you go into your changing room or locker room. Naturally, you start to you have conversations about what happened in the game. Good things, bad things, what if things, officials or refs, as I think they call them in basketball. Excuse me. And in this case, we were finding that every Sunday after a game, we would be discussing the same things. And it was just getting to the point where we thought, one of us was like, why don't we actually put this out there as a podcast? Because no one really knows about UK American football. No one really knows that we even play over here. Although it's been getting bigger every year, it's not prominent. Like, people don't really know about it. So I was like, okay, let's do it. There were 7 of us. We all decided to like have a role. The first time we tried to record a podcast, we went to one of my friend's cousin's houses. We brought one of these mixers. Nobody had any idea what we were doing. We were pressing buttons. We all made food. We were eating jollof, apple crumble and custard. We were just chilling, talking about the sport. It was trash. It was awful. Until one of the other guys in the group was like, all right, if we're going to do this properly, let's get a studio. So we began renting out a studio every couple of weeks in Ladbroke Grove. I'm sure most people know the studio. A lot of people do their recordings there. And it was great. Like, for 3.5, 4 solid years, that's what we were doing. We would have guests from all over the UK. The OGs of the sport in the UK who like played in the NFL. Some played in the NFL Europe. I did a bit of hosting. Another guy in the group did a bit of hosting. I also ran all the socials. I did a lot of myself and another guy did a lot of the recording in terms of the camera setup and chopping things up and getting it out on socials. And it was great. Like, we were in our element. And then we started to get the attention of people like NFLUK, who are the UK arm of the NFL. So they began to help us with access. So we slowly but surely were being invited to media events and different sporting events where, me personally, number one, I'm quite outgoing. Number two, I like to have conversations with people, hence the podcast. So we'd go to these events and I would try my best to interview like whoever I could, whoever I knew would hold weight if we had them on the show. So we continued doing that for a good 4 years. And then it kind of got to a point, like I mentioned earlier, I've got kids. And it got to a point where like I wanted to do more, so much more. But for different reasons, not the entire squad wasn't feeling that way. So I got to a point where I was still going to events on behalf of the group. And I was in 2 minds, because I was like, I'm doing all these opportunities, repping the group, but it's just me. And then people are having conversations with me. So it's kind of hard for me to then go back and put this on the platform because nobody else is being represented. So it kind of got to a point where like it was like crossroads. I was kind of like, listen, guys, I want to do more, so I'm going to step away. And that's what I did. Like, I remember having conversations with my wife, and she was like, look, call it this. She, big on my wife, because she actually come up with the name George on Sport. She was the one who told me to go down that line. So yeah, big up Holly. And then I remember the day that I did it, I wrote in my notes in my phone, I was like, all right, cool, I'm going to go solo. I'm going to call it George on Sports, and we're going to try and do X, Y, and Z. Now, I think it's important to share that at this point, even till this day in 2024, everything that I do, George on Sports, is my side hustle. Because I think a lot of people think I do it full time, and I don't. I'm just very lucky because my full time work is with my family business or my wife's family business, which means it allows me some flexibility to do George on Sports. Like, I used to work in London. I used to be up at like 5:30 in the morning. I'd get back at like 8 o'clock at night. There'd be no time for George on Sports. It wouldn't exist. So everything that people see on socials or wherever I'm at is all I call it my side hustle, which is great for me because I can kind of get the best of both worlds. I just wanted to share that because a lot of people think I do it full time, but I don't. Although it looks that way.
It's because they see it.
It's because they see it.
It's more visual than what you actually do full time.
So yeah, I remember going my own way, and I was like, okay, what do I want to do? What do I want George on Sports to be? So I remember I spent the longest time like brainstorming, conversations with my wife, reaching out to different people, like getting advice. How can I do this? What can I do? And it just came down to, I mean, I'm a big fan of Gary Vee. Some people like him, some people don't. And it just came down to something really simple, like, what am I good at? What could I see myself making something from financially, network, access-wise, and what would I have time to do? And I just brainstormed, and I ended up, to start with, I ended up just creating game day posters, which when I look back at it now is so trash, honestly.
But listen.
But everybody has a start, right?
I'm telling you.
It's so strange to look back at because I cringe hard when I look at my stuff from back in the day. This is 2021 now, which isn't that long ago. So I suppose it's like, nearly 4 years. So I started doing game day posters on Canva. Canva's great, by the way. I still use it now for loads of different things. I started posting that on the socials. And then I was like, well, I had already taught myself how to use editing software because we were doing X's and O's. That's the name of the show we were doing. So I knew how to use basic software like iMovie and just how to cut up clips for socials and things like that, and audio software as well. But I wasn't no whiz or nothing like that. So I started making game day posters, putting them online. Obviously, when you start, you're starting at the bottom of the barrel, quite literally. And then what I've found is as the years have gone by, or the months or the weeks, things have evolved in ways that I would never have imagined. So I went from doing game day posters to wanting to start a podcast because I knew a little bit about podcasting from doing the X's and O's with the guys. So I knew how to do the social media side. I knew how to do the camera and software editing side. It was a case of just getting the equipment myself rather than having a studio and trying to get guests on the show. That was the bit that I struggled with massively. Why would anybody want to come on the show with me? Number one, I'm a guy from the UK. Number two, people in the States and that's my target market for audiences. They hear a British accent and they go, shouldn't you be talking about soccer? Why are you talking about football? I get it all the time. So I did it anyway. I was like, all right, I need to target someone for my first guest. And there's a lady who you may or may not know. Her name's Benny Bonsu.
Yes, and I remember. I know her younger brother, the one that
passed away.
We actually played on the same team.
That's it. Oh, basketball. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So Benny, I knew Benny through. So she basically. I don't know how many people know this, but there's something called NFL Africa.
Yes. Yeah.
Which is obviously O.C. Amenyora, 2-time Super Bowl winner with the New York Giants. But it's actually Benny who was fundamental in setting that up. I think bringing O.C. on board, if I'm not incorrect.
Honestly, I've been trying to get her on the podcast because a lot of people don't know the amount of stuff she does in the background.
Nope. I tell you that
she is a powerhouse when it comes to sports, especially in Africa.
Benny is
big
huge,
time,
and it's mad because she was my first ever guest.
Oh wow.
And she gave me the opportunity and I remember being nervous as hell. Like it was like January or December.
Yeah.
I was nervous. I was like, oh, what if it doesn't work? What if it doesn't record? I was sweating. But she gave me the opportunity, and I think she was in between traveling at the time. And I remember the episode. It was a good episode, my very first one. And that's when I learned about how she met OC and helped to set up NBA Africa as well, leading to NFL Africa. And like you said, so many people don't know the full story. They don't know what kind of strings that Benny's pulling behind the scenes. They have no idea. So Benny was my first guest. And what I did from then on, I used each guest as a leapfrog to the next. So I would say to people, well, look, I've had Benny on the show. Obviously, she's currently the Olympic daily director at the Olympics. So we just had Paris, obviously, and I know she was heavily focused on that. And I would try and reach out to people. 9 times out of 10, it was being ignored or no. Simple as that. But that's what I was expecting. Why would anybody say yes? You know, I don't have a name for myself. I don't have any kind of accolades. Why would they want to be on my show? So I think the next guest I got was a guy called Nat Coombs, who is big in the NFL scene over here in particular. He used to host the, I think it was BBC or ITV show with O.C. Amenyora and a guy called Jason Bell every week. And I reached out to him. I think he had known my background because this is when it comes in handy that I played the sport and because I have connections with the NFL scene. So they kind of, were like, oh, okay, he's got a little bit of credibility. Let me jump on the show. But even then, like early days, I'd get guests that come on and they wouldn't have a lot of time, or the time that they promised they couldn't do. And I totally get it. I was happy to have doors thrown in my face because, again, I'm just going to be resilient. So I used one guest to get the next. I started rolling with this podcasting. I started to upgrade my gear, my equipment. Doing it from home, obviously, I don't have a studio. Don't have means for that, so I was just doing it wherever I could. And whilst I'm doing that, I'm learning how to, edit audio software a bit better, how to use better. Like I use a platform called Riverside to cut up social clips and things like that, same. Which is great.
Opus Clip as well,
bro. Yeah, Opus Clip. Yeah, big up Riverside because they did a lot for me when I came. I thought they were when I heard them, I didn't think they were legit, but they did a lot for me. So I remember just eventually trying to reach out to the big dogs and the big ladies in the States thinking, look, I just got to shoot my shot. And I'd scour the internet, be up to early hours in the morning looking for emails, how to find people's email addresses, who the contact is, how could I get them, what time are they active, all this kind of stuff, and just firing email after email after email. Again, 9.5 out of 10, no response. Sometimes you'd be like, sorry, busy, can't do it, blah, blah, blah. Or you need to email this person who is their line manager, knowing that they're going to say no. Until I got one of my first guests from the States. This is how far ago it is, and I'm trying to remember who it was. But I managed to get. So I've had a couple of guys from the guy called Dean Blandino, who he headed up the officials, so the referees in the NFL. So he was like one of the key people to decide whether a play was a play, whether it didn't stand, etc., etc. So someone who held weight in the NFL, which was crazy for me because by the time I get them on the show, number one, they're like, oh my gosh, someone from the UK wants me on their show. And then they're kind of intrigued. And then I can throw in, I've had this person on the show. I used to play it. And they're like, what? And then they're willing to hear me out. So I basically continued to replicate that. And then I'd put clips out of the show on YouTube, on socials to try and gain traction to the point where, I mean, again, I already had connections with NFL UK. So they could see that although I'd left X's and O's, I was still doing my own thing and some. And I just continued to snowball that. I just rolled with the punches. Then I was getting bigger and better guests. Like I had people so fantasy football was a big thing in the NFL. I had people from that world. And then what I started to do was, again, I evolved further. So we're talking about game day posters on Canva to podcasting. Now I'm thinking about doing more in-person events because in my mind, I'm like, listen, I would love to get in front of these people because I know in my heart, once I start speaking about certain things, and they hear my accent and they see how I dress and they see my stature and all of this kind of, it basically ticked every box and it ended up working that way. I would capture their intrigue. So I started going to events in the UK, player appearances. I started, at that point, I'm getting emails from certain teams and we're coming over to the UK. We'd love if you want to interview these guys, etc., etc. So you mentioned the Vikings. They're one of the greatest teams that I've worked with from day one. A number of NFL teams have UK rights to promote the sport and to promote their team. So if they've got someone coming over, it's likely I'll get an email to say, are you interested in this or that? And again, all of this is possible because my situation just happens to be right for me. So I have the flexibility to do these things, which then helps me build my profile.
For sure.
But I remember having one podcast on, his name was James Coe, who used to work for the NFL. And he said to me at the end of the show, he was like, that was great, but always remember, it should take you 100 no's before you get a yes. And I was like, you know what? I can't lie. It's already been that way for me for time. Like I've been taking 1,000 no's, but I said, but that's the name of the game. And he was like, just keep going because you only need that one yes to open down all the other doors. So I kept rolling with the punches. Now we're looking at London international games. They happen every year. We have 3 games in the UK, 2 at Tottenham Stadium, and I'm an Arsenal fan, so that hurts. But 1 at Wembley. And then you have the international scene. So I remember just flipping it back to when I was doing the group stuff with X's and O's. Like I remember there were times where like, I think there was one occasion where a few of them were at the game. I think we'd been offered tickets or something along them lines. And I opted to not go. I was like, you know what? I would love to go and watch the game. But at the same time, I was thinking ahead. So I went and I basically did a little competition. I was like, there's going to be tons of people outside the stadium. Let me get this banner made. So I had this kind of like roller banner made. And then there's a company called EP Sports who provide American football equipment. And I reached out to them to do a collab. I was like, look, if you want to give me these free gifts, I'm going to do a competition outside the stadium, get everyone to follow your page, etc., etc. And I remember my wife was like, oh, you're going to miss the game. I was like, yeah, I know, but I'm thinking ahead. Like I'm trying to put things in the workings for the future. So my friend, myself and the Mecca, we were the guys who kind of like ran the cameras. Excuse me, we did that for both the games, and I remember the heartache of like carrying all the stuff to the stadium and then like leaving whilst everyone's watching the game. I'm hearing the chants, I'm hearing the roars. I'm thinking, this is my sport, and I'm not even watching the game. I kept telling myself, just like think ahead. Did the content, we filmed it ourselves, we edited it. Again, it wasn't great, but it was something. And I think it was the first time I did my own kind of content for my own platform. When early days, 2021. So I remember doing that, did it, and that actually came back in a good way for the group because I remember we were then asked to host a Box Park Super Bowl party.
Oh, sick!
Off the back of them seeing some of this content. So I was like, okay, well, it worked in some kind of way. Yeah. But I say all that just to say the fact that I just basically didn't stop, and I sacrificed a lot of my time, a lot of my weekends, a lot of my annual leave at work because that's just the drive that I have to try and achieve something in the world of NFL because it's just what I love. Like I said, I'm an Arsenal fan, diehard Arsenal fan, but I played this sport for so many years and I know it like off the back of my hand. So I started to attend more events in person. Then I began to go to the games, and this part for me was cool because when we initially began to get access with the group, again, X's and O's, obviously we're going. You normally only get like a couple of media creds because these events are highly sought after. They can't give you 7. So they give you a couple. I would go to, I think I went to all of them. But then you see how things work. You like now, rather than going as a fan and as a paying customer, you're going as media. You're going to see me. Honestly, it was
No,
my brain.
Casey, do you remember when I did that for Team USA? I did that to go to the Team USA game.
Really?
I went as media because I couldn't get any tickets. So I just
Wow.
went with a camera and I was literally still courtside taking pictures
Crazy.
of LeBron, Steph. But like, you have to find a way.
It hits
you have
different.
to find a way.
It's different. I
Have to
was like,
find a
so
way.
this is how they live. Like, I walked
That's
into the
crazy.
media lounge. These are serving you all kinds of food, whatever you want. And then you're in the room with people who you look up to. I'm in the room, I'm seeing international NFL, like everyone from all people that I've been hitting up are in this room. So I'm thinking, this is crazy, number one. Like, I'm actually now in the room with the same people I've been trying to get on the show. So I was like, okay, I'm making the right moves. And then when I left, obviously, then was Jordan Sports. So naturally, I was like, I'm probably not going to get any kind of access now because I'm starting again. But because I had some connections at NFLUK, I think, and they had seen the work I was doing and continued to do and some, when I eventually applied to Creds, it was approved. And I was like, wow, this is crazy. So for me I'm then walking into the same media lounge the next year. And I'll never forget this moment. I'm walking in, do the security check.
Yeah.
I'm having person after person come up to me, oh, Jordan, I love your stuff. And I'm honestly, by no means am I a big-headed guy or arrogant guy. I just like to work and put the work in. So I'm having to go, oh, lovely to meet you, whilst I'm looking down at their like name tag to see who it is, because I don't know who they are, but they somehow know of my work, which was great. For me, it felt really humbling. It was like, okay, maybe people are seeing my stuff. And that's another thing that I learned as well. You have no idea who's watching.
Well, no,
I've had it so many times where I'm so reluctant to put out the content because I think it's trash, or like, I'm not going to do this, I'm not going to do that. What's the point? No one's even interacting with it or engaging with it. And then you meet someone and it's like, oh, I love your stuff. And you're thinking, what? You ain't never show me that. You never tell me that, but you don't know who's watching. So that's one thing I always remembered. So walking around the room, people introducing themselves, and I'm thinking, damn, this is crazy, because this is me on my own on the Jordan Sports that managed to get this far. And I just kept it rolling to the point where, like I said, teams were getting in contact. I was able to. I've done tons of interviews with players who have come over for tours and things like that, especially before the London games. Like when they announce the teams that are coming over, there's normally some kind of fan interaction. So the Vikings are one team I've done a lot of work with. The Jacksonville Jaguars I've done a lot of work with. It's been great. It's been a journey. Like I met my wife through the sport. She played netball, I played American football. But at uni, you have sports socials. It's provided not only financially from what I'm doing now. Like if I fast forward, like I work with a number of different organizations. So DAZN, I'm one of the. So DAZN NFL Game Pass. That's how you can watch the NFL over here.
Nice.
Aside from the game they have on Sky. So I work with them. I mentioned earlier, I literally just come from shooting. So we have an NFL show we do every week. It's the only show on the entire platform, and it's viewed around the world, which is
amazing,
insane. I would never have, if someone had told me years ago this is what you're going to be doing, I would have been like, listen, stop talking and sit down. Like, don't put that kind of stuff in my mind. Travel, I've been able to travel as well. Like I went to my first Super Bowl this year, which is in Vegas, between the 49ers and Patrick Mahomes with the Kansas City Chiefs, which was unreal for me. At this point, it's like I'm able to go to all the international games. So we just had Brazil, which I missed out on, but we had Brazil. I've just come back from Germany. We've got New Orleans in next year, February, for the Super Bowl. But they've already announced Spain next year, Mexico, Brazil again, Germany. It's mad. It's crazy. And I can't call it work. Obviously, there a lot of hard work goes into it, but it's just something that I'm so passionate about. Like I could talk about it forever. Which is basically what I'm doing right now. So, like, honestly, it's been a crazy journey, but there's still so much to do and so far to go.
I'm really happy that we're having this conversation because it's so crazy. Because even before you came, I think we were just talking about having the same kind of conversation, and even with myself and the guys that I live with, same conversation. It's almost like you just have to keep consistent. The consistency is key. It's not about, like you said, even if you think the content is not great, you still have to put it out. It's consistency. Like even things like when you're saying that you carried all the equipment. All the equipment here today, I carried it myself. Put on my shoulder on the train, got here. Struggle. Like you have to do those things. If it's something that you love doing and you want to make something out of it, you have to keep doing it. And like getting a lot of no's. Listen, the amount of no's I've had. But luckily, though, a lot of Americans have actually been more receptive to me contacting them than UK. So, which is great.
I think they're intrigued by the UK thing. Why would UK like? And then they're kind of like, okay, let me see what this is about.
But I contact some big people though. Like
you got to, bro.
Big people in the sense of like.
Of course.
Whatever, if everyone sees them. But for me, I'm always kind of like, I never look up to anyone as like a celebrity or anyone's major. We're all the same. The only difference is our bank account. That's the way I see it.
Yeah.
But like even like the NBA commissioner, the amount of times I've emailed them for
You got to try, man.
Listen, but they always respond. They always respond with a no, but with a long email.
But at least they know of you
exactly
and what you're doing. And listen, even though they're saying no, there's nothing stopping them from looking in the background to see what's going on, to see when you next email, you know what, let's give them a shot. So
Exactly. So like all those things, like everything that you said, I've experienced it. Kelvin has experienced it. Casey's saying that, like we've all experienced it, and it's something. It's still like a driving force as well, like
massively,
to what we want to create. Basically,
there's that. I think that point of having the drive and staying consistent, I think is honestly the main thing. Like there are so many times that you mentioned the travel. I remember like me and Emeka in particular, like carrying. People would make stuff for like the show, like X's and O's, and give us equipment and stuff.
Yeah.
We'd be lugging this thing on the train. Like I live in Kent. I'm based in Kent now. I'm from North London, but I live in Kent, and I'm getting this train. And you're obviously thinking about the price of travel as well, because none of this stuff we paid. This is just out of our own love for the game, from hiring the studio to all that. And I remember these days where we're lugging stuff up and down. We're going to the train station, we're thinking, oh man, this is a struggle. And I'd get home, I'd be telling my wife, she's like, look, like if this is what you still want to do it. Otherwise, do your own thing, etc., etc. So long as you still love it. But honestly, that consistency, even when you're feeling like, I remember editing the show sometimes. Like I used to edit it every Sunday in time for Monday. Be up till like 2 a.m. Like I said, I'd be hearing my kids calling me, and I was like, all right, I go settle them, then I come back down and do all them. It's funny looking back now because it's all been so worth it, and I would do it again in a heartbeat because I know like the work that I've put in. No one can ever take away from me. Nobody can ever take it away from me. And I know the drive that I've got for what I'm doing. And don't get me wrong, things haven't happened overnight. It's been
100%.
Like a slow process, but it's a process that I would definitely say is the right way, in my opinion. And even because people ask me a lot, they go, I want to get involved in what you're doing in terms of, I want to do it for myself. Where can I start? What can I do? And it's as boring as it is. My answer is always the same. And I always tell them, all right, genuinely sit and brainstorm. If you're trying to make this a financial thing, think about these questions. Can you make money from this in the long term? What is it you enjoy? What are you good at? What do you have the time to do? And it sounds so boring and straightforward. And sometimes I feel like the other person on the other end of the message might feel a bit underwhelmed.
Yeah.
Because there's no magic potion. There's no red or blue pill. It's literally just, and then I say, just start. Doesn't matter what you have. If you just have a phone, start. If you don't have all the tech and the equipment, just start. Because there's so many different elements to doing what you want to do. It might be you have a fear of hearing your own voice. Like I used to hate hearing the sound of my voice. Bearing in mind I was on a show every 2 weeks on YouTube, on socials and things like that, and I would watch it and cringe hard and hide, and my wife would be like, look, no, I'm not watching it. I used to hate the way I looked on camera, the way I sounded, the way I came across. But you do it enough times, it just becomes second nature, 100%. Honestly.
Did you ever start with notes on your phone when you started?
Do you know what? I'm trying to think back. So, like, I'm trying to think back to the X's and O's when we used to do it in the studio. How did we do it? Depending on who was. Yeah, we did. I'd have my phone on my knee.
Yeah.
And I'd have notes that I would refer to. But one thing that I really always enjoyed is being able to have conversations, loose conversations without sticking to a script too much. Personally.
Yeah.
Because again, I was trying to prep for the future, which has definitely helped me. But because I like to, and to be fair, because it's American football and because I played it and because I follow the sport, I don't have to have any kind of script. Like I can just reel off a whole conversation, but that would be similar for you in basketball, I'd imagine. I wouldn't.
But even this conversation, I have no script, but I know exactly what I want to get out of it, and you've kind of been given that already. I'd say my next question is around family.
Yes.
What did your parents think about? First of all, what country are you from?
I'm from Nigeria. Nigeria. I always say I'm British by birth, but Nigerian by blood.
Okay, yeah. So, being Nigerian, what did your parents say to you? Did they agree with you even playing the sport?
Yeah.
And actually taking it as far as you
because
did,
it's dangerous, isn't it? And you know, African parents know they don't like that kind of stuff. They just want you to study and be safe.
Yeah.
My dad never really paid any much interest. He was like, okay, so long as you don't get hurt. I was like, okay, cool. But my mum was always like, oh, why are you playing these aggressive sports? These are too rough. She never liked it, especially when I started rugby because she had to come and get me one day. So again, I was a winger. I got involved in the scrum of the mall, and then someone knocked my nose. I didn't even realize. Basically, fractured my nose, and she had to come get me to go to the hospital. And she was screwing the whole time. She's like, "This is why I tell you not to play this sport." Like typical kind of response. But she knew from very early on that she couldn't stop me. She knew that was my outlet, and she never stopped me from doing it. She just wanted me to be safe. So, when I went to uni and told her I was playing American football, she was like, "So you've gone from rugby to American football? Like, are you okay? You know, that's worse." I said, "Yeah, I know, but I'm enjoying it." So I kept her involved with everything I was doing. She sadly passed away last year, so bless her soul. But like, she was always very interested in everything I was doing with the sport. Up until I made it to the Super Bowl, which she missed out on me going. But she was very supportive. She knew I loved it. She could see the physical changes in me as well. Like I was always in the gym. I was always putting my head into the playbook. So she backed it as much as she was afraid of me getting hurt. But yeah, they were supportive.
That's good. That's good. And was there any sort of influences from how you saw them growing up that you've kind of applied to how you approach the sport, and not just the sport, but also how you approach your professional life now as well?
I think the one thing I would say would be hard work. Like, I saw them that, like, obviously there's 4 of us. There's my older sister, then there's myself, and I got 2 younger brothers, and we're all good. We're all doing well. But seeing the come up, like, Mum used to work a couple of jobs, 3 jobs. I remember early in the morning before school, she'd be at one job and then she'd come back before the other one. My dad used to be a cab driver in Brixton, which meant he was coming home with all kinds of stuff, like, every day in the morning, and all this kind of madness. So, like, there was a lot going on in terms of work and hustling. And So that aspect, I think I've naturally just seen, and I've applied it to everything that I've been doing. Like, I always say to myself and to my wife and to other people, I'm that guy that I always end up taking the long way around. Not that there's always a shortcut, but whenever I'm doing anything what I'm trying to achieve, it always feels like I'm taking the long way around the table. I know some people can go straight down the middle, but and I've always just allowed it to be that way. Because for me, I think it's reinstated in me that the hard work means something, the sacrifice means something, and it's going to come back twofold, you know, somewhere down the line. So I would say that's definitely the main thing, just seeing the come up with Mum and Dad and the struggles that they had and how they continued to be driven. Even if it meant, you know, they were doing multiple jobs. And I remember coming back from school for quite a lot of my primary school life, and we had a nanny who we'd go and stay with because Mum was at work or Dad was at work. So indirectly, without even realizing, I've massively taken that and I've applied it to, like, everything that I do when it comes to whatever I'm trying to achieve. It's just, it might be hard, it might be long as well, but it's definitely worth it. So that's for sure.
That's dope. That's dope. And the reason why I asked that is because a lot of people it's different for them. Like, for me, I grew up in Nigeria. Well, I was born in Nigeria. Came here when I was 12.
Okay.
And what I got from my parents, well, my mom was with us when we came here. I'm the oldest, 4 younger sisters. Just kind of seeing how she moves and how she just makes things happen. But then at the same time, also looking at my dad, who is a ultra creative, but never really fulfilled his potential. So what I took from him was that I don't want to be that guy, basically, because at one point I was that guy where I would have an idea, start something, but never finish. So I said, no, I have to be the opposite of that. And those are the type of things I took from them. So whether it's good or bad, I kind of took certain things from them to kind of be who I am now as well. So yeah, but then obviously transitioning from just the parents as well, one thing that I definitely made sure I had to have in my life was a mentor. And mentorship has helped me over the years to think beyond just the norm and who I am. Think in the sense of, like, everything I do is in service to people. It's never in service to myself. It's never in service to my bank account or anything like that, but it's in service to people. How can what I'm doing, how can this podcast help people? How can Basketball Nation, which is a basketball community, help people? Like, how can wherever I do or wherever I put my hands on help people, basically? That's a good way, isn't it? So that's how I've just been living. And a lot of people may not like it or may think I'm nonchalant, obviously, because of certain things, but that's just how I am.
It works for you.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
At the end of the day, that's what that matters.
Yeah, because for me, the most important thing is whatever vision has been set, that's what I'm focusing on. Anything else around that that tries to distract me, like, can
it's interesting because you mentioned mentorship, and I remember so we're being from North London, where we were wasn't the greatest of areas, although it's changed now. And we had a youth club that was created called the Underground.
Nice.
And I remember just one day I was like, who are these bunch of guys? I saw a couple of my friends with this group and they looked like they was about to go out. And I was thinking, number one, why am I not involved in this? Who are these adults that you guys are with? That's when I discovered there was a youth club. Unbeknown to me, in my own estate, I had no idea. So I joined, And then I realized that this was basically like my first introduction to like mentoring. So they were basically providing people with opportunities, taking them on days out, things that I didn't get to do much as a kid.
Yeah.
So even if it was like bowling, paintballing, all that kind of stuff, I did a lot of that. But what I quickly found was, I don't even know how to word it, but I kind of, there were roles, right? As part of the youth club. There were things like treasurer, like chairman, just titles, which don't really mean too much. But what I quickly found was, I kind of positioned myself, I don't like to say as a leader, but I kind of positioned myself as someone who wanted to take responsibility. I don't know how or where it came about, but I just found myself wanting to lead the group and be in charge of certain things.
Yeah.
And that was my very first kind of like introduction to, I guess, people management, finding my confidence in myself, and mentorship. There was a guy called Steve who used to run it, and he'd always like, I think he was kind of surprised because I kind of just came on board. It'd been set up for a while. He'd never seen me before. And I was like, I live on the estate. He's kind of like, well, where have you been, sort of thing. And I kind of took it and ran with it. So like, not that I led the group, but I found myself, you know, taking charge and finding my feet and feeling good about how I was running things. And I felt like this was something I wanted to do. And I only say that because throughout my career, like when I remember when I was at, where was I? Was I at uni? I think I might have been in my placement year. There was a mentorship opportunity. Someone had put my name forward. I think it was the youth club at this time because they had remembered. I told them I was going. I went to uni, so I left the club. And there was a guy called Steve who worked at HSBC in Canary Wharf. And I was thinking, why is my name being connected with somebody in Canary Wharf? It doesn't add up, you know. Who's the math is the mathing. And someone had suggested me for like a mentorship thing. And I had won this opportunity. So I think for every week for a while, I'd go to Canary Wharf. Like I'm looking up at these buildings thinking, I'm not even supposed to be here, but apparently I am. And I'd get mentored by this guy called Steve, who was like the CEO of this division or something. I'd go up to the top floor, meet him in this room. Really cool guy. He was an amputee as well. I think he was in the war at some point. And he would basically sit me down and be like, okay, so you've been put forward for this kind of mentorship thing. We're going to work on you as a person, identify your weaknesses, your strengths. And honestly, it was a massive eye-opener for me. I never forget it. I still got the report till this day. So what he asked me to do was something called a 360 review. And I was working at General Electric on my placement year at uni, so placement year before my final year. I was working there for the year, and he asked me to give this to my line managers, and basically it got passed around, and everyone had to do a 360 review on me. So everyone from a colleague all the way up onto the CEO, and it was crazy because the feedback was, I was shocked. I was like, oh damn. A lot of it was like, George speaks when he doesn't need to speak. He tries to do too much. And what's mad is I was like, you know what? It's actually very true, because I was thinking back to my underground youth club days. Like not that I thought I was the guy, but I think I was trying to force it, especially when I'm in this new environment. I'm working in an office for a big company, and maybe I was trying to do too much because I wanted them to think I was capable. You know, I wanted them to think I could do X, Y, and Z, but it didn't need to be that way. I remember looking through the report. There was a ton of good things, but it was like things to work on. I was like, wow. He's like, oh, especially when we have meetings, George always feels like he needs to say something. And I was like, it was like a stab in my chest. I was like, I thought I was all right. Like, what's happening here? Why are these like kicking me when I'm down? But it was a massive eye opener, and it was good, really good, because when I took the report back to Steve, he was like, how does that make you feel? I was like, I'm not gonna lie, I was gutted. Like I was mad gutted, because I thought I was on the right track, doing the right thing. And he was like, sometimes less is more. You don't always have to say something. You don't always have to be that guy. You just don't have to do it. And I remember I've along with some of my school certificates, I carry it everywhere. It's just like a staple. It's stapled about 10 pages, all these bar charts and things. The general report was great work ethic, great drive, things that I kind of knew I was anyway. But the stuff that I wasn't expecting to read knocked me for six. But I've carried that with me everywhere. In terms of in my mind, and it's changed who I am as a person in terms of like, yes, I like to try and take control, lead, or organize. I don't like chaos. But it doesn't always mean that I have to speak. It doesn't always mean that I have to be involved. I don't have to be at the forefront. And honestly, till this day, I never forget that report. I remember showing my wife. She was like, well, I see it too. And it's like, well, that's crazy because I don't see it. But it opened my eyes massively. So mentorship, I'd say, has been great for me. And it's continued throughout my life, really.
That's great. That's very impactful. And I'm glad that you shared that with us as well. And then I want to transition from mentorship.
Yep.
How have you been involved in sort of like giving back as well? And when I say giving back, have you been involved with anything grassroots, especially when it comes to NFL or
Bro,
football? Yeah.
Grassroots is what I lived for, essentially, really. The difference between like football and American football and grassroots is you could go to your local park and there'd be a ton of people playing football.
Yeah.
You don't see that over here for American football. Unless you know where the team is training or you know of a team. You ask someone in the street, they have no idea of any team. Every city in the UK has at least 2 teams, but nobody can name one, aside from if you're involved in the sport. So when it comes to giving back, when we were doing X's and O's, and even after that when I was doing my own thing, we were, when I talk about sacrifice, right? So again, got kids, wife, married, etc. Weekends, ideally you want to think of like family time. I used to play still before I retired in 2021. So Sundays between half of the year, I'd be playing games. I'd be traveling, playing games. But grassroots, we would be X's and O's where we were all about the people. So we were giving back to the people. We were going to games to cover games and put that on platform where nobody else would do that. We were giving interviews to people who would never have seen a mic in their life playing the sport. We were going to finals to the point where one of the finals in 2019 or 2020, before COVID, so maybe 2019, it was held in is it New Leisure Stadium? I think it's between Wood Green and Tottenham.
Okay.
New River Stadium. Okay. And we were approached to host and to cover the final for it. It was streamed on BBC. It was crazy. We were at this point we're thinking, you know what, we've made it. All the work we've done is worth it. But like we've always given back, and I still do that now. Like back X's and O's, it was giving people opportunities they would never have had. Yeah, putting the spotlight on them, putting them on socials, getting their story, capturing their story. We even went out to so in Germany or Europe. There's a bigger American football scene than there is over here. And we have guys we know personally who play for these teams in Europe who are bigger teams than anything the UK has at the minute. So some of us would travel, especially in Mecca. He would travel to Germany and cover some of the games over there, which is like, again, it's all from our own pocket. Like most people will do when they're trying to get somewhere. But it's carried through to like, even now, people are hitting me up and they're like, oh, can you help me? Can I do this? And I always have time for people. I might not get back to you straight away, but a lot of the advice like I said before, I've given to people, I've even had them on, I've had like Zoom calls or Riverside calls in this case, where I've just like, look, let's just talk about what it is you want to do, because I never forget like my come up, so to speak, how difficult it was for me, all the no's, all the rejections. I've actually in my phone to this day, I've got a notes. It's about 4 pages long of all the L's that I've taken. Literally, the people that promised to come on the show who didn't, people who said they'd get this for us and didn't, everything that we were promised or I was promised and didn't fulfill. And I've just kept it on there just as a reminder. And then at the bottom, I've got the date when I kind of like decided to fly and go solo, so to speak. So giving back is important, because you never want to. For me personally, if I haven't got time to reply to someone, there's a difference between that and just completely disregarding them, because I'd feel like an awful person if I didn't at least acknowledge whoever it is that's asking me a favor or a question, because I was that same person. And to this day, sometimes I still am that person. Like when I'm trying to get different guests on the show, I've still got to hit different people up. Still got to send emails and everything. It might be a little bit easier now because my name is a bit more known. Yeah. But I still have to do it. And I don't want to ever be that person to kick somebody else when they're trying to come up, when I know that was me not so long ago. So I always have time to give back, always.
That's dope. What do you think is the next thing for American football in Europe in terms of like what's needed to take it to the next level now? Because, for example, with basketball, I think investment in grassroots is the next thing in the UK, should I say? Because a lot of opportunities are given to the pro side, but grassroots are almost kind of like an afterthought. Yeah, basically. So for American football, like in Europe, I would say not just UK, but in Europe, because I know that's where your space is. Like, what do you think the next thing is?
I'll start by going back in history. We used to have NFL Europe.
Yes, I remember. Like
Hamburg Sea Devils, Frankfurt Galaxy, Scottish Claymores, London Olympians, London Monarchs, who are one of the best teams Europe's ever seen. The scene was booming. Like Coca-Cola, Budweiser, they sponsor every game at Wembley, sell out every single year. And then things changed internally with the management and it took a nosedive. So I would say, number one, Europe as a whole, excluding the UK, well, certain teams in Europe have a much bigger American football pool than we do here in the UK, because in Germany they have something called the GFL. It's been going for years, so many years, and it's strong. We have a domestic league over here run by BAFA. It's not as strong as it used to be, but it still exists. The game has come up leaps and bounds since when I started, and I started playing the sport in 2010 when I went to uni. Leaps and bounds. Like I didn't know about I wouldn't know how to find my local team. I wouldn't know what the website was. There was no marketing, no media rights. It's a completely different game now. I think it's already well underway in terms of the come up for sure, especially with grassroots. And you just have to look at, there's something called the NFL Academy, which you may or may not know.
Yeah, I know about it, yeah.
And that's for 16 to 19 year olds and honestly, they get, man, I just wish I wish it was around when I was younger because yes, they're still getting their education. It used to be based in Barnet area. Now it's in Loughborough, which is obviously quite a way away. But they have A1 facilities. They're kitted out by the pros who fly in from the States. They get matchups all over the country. They fly to the States for games. So they're getting the best of the best, or the creme de la creme, as we like to call it, from the best coaches around while still getting their education. And at the end of it, the aim is they get signed to a Div 1, Div 2, or JUCO, which sits below Div 2 scholarship, or Power 5 school. At the end of their term at an academy, and there are so many guys that they've done the academy, then they've been signed. It's crazy.
That's crazy.
There are so many guys who are in big schools right now in the States playing college football because of the NFL Academy.
That's dope.
And technically, those guys who are of the upper echelon or whatever will make it. They'll get drafted, and then they'll be on the team. Like there's a guy called F.A. Abada, you may have heard of him. He's from South London. His backstory is a whole different thing. Didn't play many games over here, but he's killing it out in the States. He's played for he's on his third or fourth team now.
Oh wow.
But I would say it's well underway for sure. The opportunities now to get into the sport are endless. So I've mentioned the NFL Academy. There's also something called flag football, which is basically tag rugby. It's a kind of similar thing. You wear the belts and you have to pull the belt off. Non-contact, which a lot of people favour, especially parents of young children, because you can avoid all the concussions or the bad injuries, which are part of the contact game. It's just the way it is. And flag football provides so many opportunities to get into. It's an introduction to American football.
Well, it's going to be in the Olympics, right?
It's going to be in the Olympics, LA 2028, which is a big deal, huge deal, first time ever. And the reason why is because you go from flag football, which teaches you a general understanding of the game, and then when you reach a certain age, you can decide whether or not you want to move to contact or continue playing flag. You can play flag for many, many years until, however old you are. And if you want to go into contact, the game already, and then the contact element is obviously different because now you're being hit, you're being knocked around, etc., which is why some people like it, some people don't. But the exposure is honestly, when I started in 2010, there was nothing. I don't remember any kind of exposure. Now it's everywhere, and Europe as well. We got guys who go from the UK to Europe to go and play because you get paid as an import if you play in teams and you play for teams in Europe. Okay. So the opportunity is there, like it never used to be. The marketing, like I mentioned, NFL teams have rights in the UK. About 6 teams have rights over here: the Jets, the Vikings, the Jags. I'm trying to think of some of the other teams. Miami Dolphins. Loads of different teams have rights, so they can freely promote the sport over here. The Bears as well, who just played in London last month, I believe. So it's well underway here and in Europe.
Okay. The reason why I even asked that is because we have 2 guys from our community that have now transitioned to American football. Oh. Yeah. So, and there's a young guy that I'm connected with called Noah. He's part of a group called XLP Performance.
Oh, yeah. Coach XL. Big up Coach XL.
So all the guys that want to transition to American football, I just pass them on to him, and he just goes to their training. And they're doing really well. So.
Coach XL, he's done a lot for the scene. You talk about grassroots and helping guys. Coach XL is a testament to that week in, week out. Yeah. Who's the other guy, out of curiosity?
His name is Noah.
So Noah, okay. Yeah. So he's gone from basketball to...
So Noah's the one that I know that's part of XL.
Right, okay.
I've never met Coach XL himself, but I've heard about him.
Yeah, it's good
But
guy.
the young boys I have, one of them is called Joe, and the other one is called, what's his name? Is it Audrey, yeah.
Ooh.
And Aaron, not Audrey. Okay. Aaron. He's played basketball at East London. Right. And then it's now transitions. Quite stocky guy, so I'm guessing he'll be playing like a running back.
Potentially, or defensive end or linebacker, one of those. The NFL community in UK is a small world. Everybody knows everybody, really. So the moment you mention Coach XL, immediately you know who he is and what he stands for. But it's getting a lot more popular. I'll tell you that.
I'm still yet to go to one of their sessions on Saturday because I run my session on Saturday as well.
Right.
So one of these days I'll definitely be there. I'll definitely be there. Okay, so next question is, what's next for you?
Whew, that's a big question.
Oh, no, that's not a big question. The next one is a big question.
What's next for me? It's a good question. I've kind of just been rolling with the punches. Like at the start of this, people used to ask me what my plan was, and really, I never really had a plan in terms of the end goal. And some things I wanted to do, I wanted to get to the Super Bowl, which I've been able to do, so I'm very thankful for that. I wanted to have my like name in the scene, which I've done, but continue to do.
Yeah.
So I'm thankful for that. But in terms of like an end goal, there really isn't one. I love the game. I love being involved in everything that comes with the game, the travel, the media, the opportunities, the show that I've got. So I don't really know what's next. Is I just keep going, really. What I have found is, as I continue to evolve, whether that be intentionally or unintentionally, because what I found is people then start to approach you for different things because they see what you're doing and they go, well, maybe he could do this, maybe he could do that. And then I'm very open to taking different branches from different places and seeing where they all go. So every year I've done something more, which again, I'm sitting here saying this, I wouldn't have said this 3 or 4 years ago. There's no way. I would have been like, well, I'm just trying to make game day posters on camera, man. Like, I just want someone to see my game of the week. That's it. So I've just accepted the different, I've been rolling with the punches, as they say. And I've done so many different things, and I'll continue to do so many different things. Like, obviously, NFL is my bag, but because of that, I work with My Protein doing educational gym content. I mentioned DAZN. I have a show with them, but I also run socials for DAZN as well, which is something I never thought I'd be doing. What else do I do? I do talks, career day things at my kids' school, where I bring in all my equipment. I'm like, this is what you can do. You can make. I bring in all my lanyards from all the events. They're like, oh my God, how did you get that? And my kids sit there thinking, yeah, he does, which is pretty cool to see my kids like bigging me up. I just. It opens so many different doors. So many different doors. You'd be surprised. So what's next for me? Whatever comes next through the door, man. I'm not too sure. I'm just going to keep going.
Nice. The reason why I said the next question is a big one is because now you're going to ask me a question. So do you have a question for me?
Okay. Do you know why I like that? It's because that's something that I would do. And it's just thinking outside the box.
Yeah.
It's just something that I would do to just try and flip the script. What was your inspiration to do this? The whole podcast set up and to get guests on the show.
Should I tell you why? I'm being honest as well. So I started a podcast because there's so many people within sports that I've always wanted to get to know personally, whether it's for relationship, whether it's for business, whether it's for partnership, whatever it is. But then I realized that me being able to speak to them off LinkedIn and saying, oh yeah, let's have a Zoom call, let's have coffee, I'm going to get a lot of no's. So I created a platform for them to come and speak to me.
Right. I mean,
that was the reason why.
Listen, you got to make it work however it's going to work.
That's the reason why I started. And then once I started, I was like, oh, this is actually, okay, I'm actually building a learning library for myself. But then now, through recording, I'm sharing it with the rest of the world.
Right.
So my own learning library with the rest of the world, which is why I started this.
Yeah.
But also, I wanted to show a lot of the young guys and girls that are into sports or love sports, whether they play or don't play, the alternatives around sports that beyond an athlete, basically, which is why I call it beyond the athlete.
Makes sense, yeah. That's key.
Because you realize that there's people like Benny Bonsu,
man,
who maybe we may not have seen her play football or basketball or this, but she's doing crazy stuff behind the scenes that a lot of athletes don't really know about, but now like eventually they will, basically, and so many other people as well. So even like faces, like there's a magazine called Slam Magazine.
I think I've heard.
Knowing the faces behind that, Baller's Life, knowing the faces behind that, knowing who like the coaches are in London that train a lot of NBA players that people don't know about. Like those other things. That's what I'm saying. So it's just like showcasing these people out there, but also me learning from them, building a relationship with them, and just kind of like at the same time serving everyone.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. It makes sense. But if another question for you then, what does the ideal setup in terms of not physically like a studio setup, but what does the ideal situation look like for you then? What would you say this is where you want to be? Obviously, you always want to evolve and you always want to do more, but what is it you're trying to achieve? What is it you want things to look like? Paint the picture for me.
So first step is to be the leading body in basketball in the UK and Europe. Dope. And then next step from that is to actually be one of the main voices in sports globally. Right. So we started an association called Nation Sports Association, where we have myself basketball, we have boxing, we have athletics, we have football, American football with Noah, and even now gaming as well. So we wanted to be able to explore those sports and those platforms and build from the grassroots up, build our communities within that. But then at the same time, my role is to really kind of get into government and understand like the policies behind sports, and almost like what Benny is currently doing,
kind of, yeah,
and really be a voice there for the people that may not be seen or may not be heard of as well,
which is very important, man.
So that's where those are the two steps down.
Another two questions.
Yeah.
This question is what I always ask a lot of the players and stuff that I speak to. So, what one thing, might be more than one thing, do you think that people in this industry who are up and coming maybe or seeing what you're doing, what one thing do you think they don't understand about what it takes to do what you're doing? So, for example, if I'm asking this to an athlete, a running back, I'll say, what one thing do you think fans don't appreciate about your position as running back in the NFL? And they'll say they don't realize how much we have to. We don't just run the ball; we have to block. We have to know everyone else's role. We got to know what his role is, his role is. So I'll say to you, what one thing do you think people don't understand about what it takes to do what you're doing? Because I know it's something I could answer, but I want to hear what you would say.
First of all, consistency, big thing. Being multifaceted as well. So,
That's a key
which is
one,
important. And I'll be honest with you, same way with your wife, my wife as well. The reason why I went to Team USA game, I was actually going to send a photographer and a videographer there, and not attend because I wanted to get a courtside ticket. I didn't want to sit anywhere else apart from courtside. And she said, "No, you go. There's YouTube. Go on YouTube and learn how to take pictures with the camera."
Mad.
And that's what I did 2 days before the event.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that the USA Germany game?
Both games.
Do you know what's mad?
The women's game as well.
What's crazy is I tried to get access to that.
Oh, really?
Bang, access denied. And sometimes just like that, I was like, okay, cool. You know, it's not. I don't know whether it's because it's not. I don't have much basketball. I don't cover basketball at all.
I only have my social media page. I have under 2,000 followers.
Bro, honestly, sometimes I was like, you know, it is what it is, and I really wanted to go to that game. I know LeBron was around and all that kind of stuff. So the fact that you picked up your camera and did that is I love that.
So things like that, basically, like even for example, like learning how to set up the cameras.
Yeah.
That I had to learn how to do that. It took me a while, even doing live streams. So when I do my online podcasts, being able to connect to OBS and being able to stream through the camera itself. So the camera is now my webcam and all that kind of stuff. Same thing as well. So like I had to learn all those things, and it took some time, took process as well. I remember when Casey had did a podcast and I was his cameraman, and do you know, part of it came out blurry. So, but
I've been there.
But it's part of it. It's part of the journey. It's part of the learning process. So so those two things for me, very, very important. And just having the mindset that there's also a process to all of this as well.
There is, man.
Like, it's not going to happen overnight. Like, I've only been doing podcasts for a year now. I've started recording last year, January, but I've only started releasing for a year now.
Right.
And I've only released, this will be the 18th episode.
Right.
So
it's just a consistency, honestly. Like, people hate to hear it because it's boring and there's there's no magic answer. A lot of the times, one thing, completely random, but one thing, you guys might know of a company called Content Club, Marl from the Content Club. You may have heard of him. It's a guy who's in the camera scene and basically provides production for, like, he works with BR Sports, Premier League, WWE. He actually helped us film our NFL show the other day.
Oh, dope.
And he said something which I resonate with. When people reach out to you and they're asking for advice and support, sometimes I have people where they're just like, can you give me the name of somebody? And sometimes I'm kind of like, I don't want to say yes to that question directly, but I don't want to say no, because you know the struggle of what it took to get there. But also, me just giving you the name of someone, you're going to message them and they're going to be like, well, like, where
I just showed them how I did it.
Yeah, like, it's very different. So sometimes it's one thing that I remember in particular about, sometimes people can be funny with their approaches because they can assume that it was easy for you based on where you might be at now when they haven't really seen the rest of it. Like, they might see what you're like, okay, for example, yes, I was in Germany. Someone's seen me in Germany. They've assumed I've been fed it, or they assume I've been silver spoon, not knowing any of the backstory of all the years of struggle and all the years of doing all this for free and whatever. But back to your message, that is very, very important. I can't talk about consistency enough. I cannot talk about it doesn't matter how boring it gets or how tired you are. Consistency is the main thing, regardless of how you think about your content. But my other question, which is what it will completely throw you because there's nothing to do with anything we're speaking about, and I always ask this to people, but I'm intrigued. If somebody said to you, I can tell you the world's secrets, everything, the world's secrets, you just have to say yes or no. Just firstly, think about the weight of what I've just said. The entire world's secrets, everything. Everything you've ever debated about or wondered about and you don't know the answer. Are you going to say yes to that and having to live with that knowledge, or are you going to say no and continue moving forward with your life? I'm just intrigued. I ask this question to everybody.
The reason why I say that, even if I knew the secrets,
because it's not like you're gonna. It's not the sense that you're gonna go and do something with it. It's knowing how the world actually is and what is actually going down. Like if you just think about, like, I'm not gonna lie to you. Like there's loads of things that I have so many different theories about, from the Twin Towers to the pyramids, everything. So if someone said to you, I can tell you exactly what's happened in each of these events in the world, you have to live with the weight of knowing that. And then you live your life in a different way because of that. Or would you rather be like, you know what, I'm good, I'm just going to continue living my life, and whatever happens, happens, and I'd rather not know why it's happened.
Even if, for me, even if I know the secret or not, my trajectory doesn't change.
Right.
I think I will only, like, if I knew the secrets of the world, what I normally do, this is how I am anyway, I will take what I need from that to benefit my trajectory. Everything else is still knowledge anyway. And to be honest with you, wherever I use it for is still hearsay, because someone else told me. Where did they hear it from?
Yeah.
That's the way I see it. So I would, even if I knew it or I didn't know it, my trajectory would still be the same. But then I can still apply certain bits from
you utilize whatever you come from it. Now I always have to throw that in there because I don't know about you, but bro, I sit and think about things all the time and wonder,
so
is that an inside job or is that legit?
I don't even want to tell you my thoughts from the other day.
Bro, literally, I say it because we were in Germany. We were all having dinner after, like, winding down from the games. And we just randomly had this conversation about theories and stuff. And I was like, you know what? And I asked this question to the table. One of my friends, Ash, who we record with, she was like, I don't want to know anything. Don't tell me anything. Keep it to yourself. I'm just going to keep moving on. And the other guy was like, no, I want to know everything. I want to know everything. Me personally, I think I want to know, because my brain just goes round in circles like, but what if this is true? But what if that is true? But did they really do that? Why would they do that? Is it really because of this reason? But then living with that's what I'm saying. Living with that knowledge on your shoulders is another story. So I always have to throw that one in there. But I would say, like, there are a lot of people who are, I say, doing what we're doing or trying to do what we're doing. Yeah. And I think it's important for things like this, so 100%. People can see it. Yeah, they know what it actually takes. Like I said, some people have a vision of what they think has happened on your journey or my journey, and sometimes that gets reflected on you by them. And I've had so many occasions where people have said certain things and they've projected what they think about my journey onto me or onto others, and it's like at that point you're like, well, there's nothing I can say because you've really made up your mind. But it's 100%. Important for people to know and understand this stuff does not happen overnight. It doesn't happen without sacrifice. It doesn't happen without
no sleep.
Yeah, honestly, I can't. The sleep one is just crazy. The sleep one is crazy. But sometimes you just have to do what you got to do. And it's in those moments where you're like, I'm beat up, I'm down and out. Like you have to muster the energy from somewhere because, like I said, when I'm doing certain things and I'm thinking I can't be bothered to do it or there's no point. I've done things like that, or I've decided to go somewhere to an event that I didn't want to go to, and something has come from that very evening or that very session, and the next day I've had moments where, like, I'm not gonna lie, just be straightforward. Like I've had moments where I'm doing my stuff in the industry, working, doing podcasts, trying to think of better content, trying to learn how to do better content. And then you come across other people who you might think, oh man, I've been grinding for so long. How have they got this? And I've had those thoughts. And I would get really down and beat up about it. And I get into, like, I find myself in a low and I'm like, oh man, like, is there even a point? Like, if I'm not going to get these opportunities, what's the point? And then I don't know why, that kind of same time period, a week or so, something happens. I get an inbox message. And I was like, what? Like the odds of me, I was about to tap out. And then this comes through the door. It's like, this opportunity. I'm thinking, really? Like, is that how it's going to work? It's just to say that sometimes it doesn't go your way. Yeah. And sometimes it will. But if you know why you're doing it and you know why you love it, in my case, the NFL,
100%.
I love the sport, and that has shined through everywhere I've gone. From when I go in front of players now, be it here in London for the games or in the States, Germany, the moment I start to talk, number one, I have their attention because of my accent. Yeah. Number two, they kind of look at my build and go, how do you know to say that? You only know to say that if you've played the sport. Yeah. And then I've unlocked that door. Yeah. The amount of players that I've had, I always tell this funny story with a guy called Mark Ingram. He's was a running back from the New Orleans Saints. We went to the practice in London. It was the room same size as this. It was a very different kind of media day. It was very personal. Like, they had their wives and girlfriends in the room next door. He walked into the podium. He's a fellow running back. And I'm that guy. When you go into a media room and people ask questions, it's normally about, how was the flight over? Who's injured in the team? What's the game plan? And I sit there and go, number one, you ain't about to get any of them questions from me. Because although I've only played in the UK, you don't want to be hearing that. I know you don't want to be hearing that. So I will do my research, even if it takes me all night to find that one thing that I can ask, and everyone in the room is going to go, how the hell do you know that? But the guy I'm talking to, Mark Ingram, I basically, he had just hit 10,000 all-purpose career yards or something like that for the Saints and within the in the history books. So as he walked, and his nickname is Big Trust. So as he walked out, silence. Everyone's like, oh, he's coming. I'm like, oh, Big Trust. And he looks over to me and goes, oh, who said that? And I was like, me. He's like, oh, I see you. At that moment, I knew I was in.
You got his attention. Yeah.
Then I congratulated him on his 10,000 career before I said anything. And he was like, oh, that means a lot. Thank you. Then I proceeded to ask him my question, which was, it was like a triple blow. Big Trust, okay, he knows who I am. Number 2, congratulations on this achievement. He's like, okay, he actually knows who I am. And then the killer question was something you would only know if you did research. I think he took it back to his college days. The following day, I came back to watch them train somewhere in Watford. I was waiting for the quarterback to come onto the podium, and the players were leaving the field, going into their bubble tent to go work out and eat. And someone tapped me on my shoulder, and I was like, who's this? I'm trying to film this quarterback, get this question in, and someone's tapping me on my shoulder. I'm thinking, how do I respond to this? Am I about to like nudge him off? I quickly looked, and it was Mark Ingram. I'm like, oh, shit. Excuse my language. And he had made his way from the field. But at the time, I had a specific hair. It was up. It was easy to see me. But he had remembered me because of my questions and the effort I put in to ask half-decent questions. And I've carried that through everywhere I go, just because it works. You know, if you take the time to actually ask decent questions, if you know you're going to meet someone, do the extra work, even if it takes you a while, because you don't know how it's going to pay back. And
100%.
I've then had him on my show. Every time I saw him at the Super Bowl, he dapped me up. He was the first guy to come and do content with me in Vegas. It carries a long way. And that goes for people that NFL analysts, network presenters, sideline presenters, that they've seen what I've done. I've had them on the show. They've seen me in Germany or Vegas. They're like, oh, George, what's up? And it carries because they then spread the word.
Exactly.
So honestly, when you're in those moments and you're thinking, oh man, I can't be bothered, or this is too long,
it pays off.
It does. You got to stick with it. You got to stick with it, for sure.
Definitely. My next question, though.
Yeah, go for it.
I'm gonna take the GOAT out, Tom Brady. He's not in this. Top 3. Well, my top 3 quarterbacks, I would say, or top 3 quarterbacks for most people. You have to start, bench, trade. They're all on the same team.
Wow.
Patrick Mahomes, Peyton Manning, Aaron Rodgers.
Okay. I'm going to say this, the easiest one for me to do is cut. Aaron Rodgers is gone. Because I'm not a fan of his personality.
Okay.
I'm a big believer in being humble and not being a bit of an arse, basically. Like, I understand what he's done. He's going to go into the Hall of Fame, but I'm not a fan of his character. So, bro's gone. You're cut immediately. Then you're talking about bench and start.
Yeah.
This is tricky because Peyton Manning obviously had a very soft place in my heart, being a Colts quarterback, winning the Super Bowl with us. But I have no choice but to start Peyton Manning. Let me rewind. I have no choice but to start Patrick Mahomes.
Okay.
Because he's a generational talent. You know, the guy excelled in both baseball and American football, and clearly he just has one of the craziest arms that the sport has ever seen.
Yeah.
So I will start Patrick Mahomes and I will bench Peyton Manning. Okay. No offense, Peyton, but Patrick is different gravy these days, man.
Okay, cool. That's a good answer. That's the first of many that we've asked on the end.
Really?
NFL. We always ask basketball.
Yeah. I wouldn't even know who to. I mean, I know a few names.
I was gonna say start, bench, trade. Jordan, Kobe, LeBron.
Okay, let me do that. Man, okay. Jordan, Kobe, and LeBron. I will probably. Oh man, that's hard actually.
Yeah, Jordan, Kobe, LeBron.
Jordan, Kobe. All right, I'm gonna. Is it trade? You said, yeah.
Start bench, trade. Yeah.
I'm gonna trade Jordan. As mad as it sounds,
Nice one.
I'm gonna trade Jordan because as much as I want great talent on the team, I want the team to be cohesive, and I don't want locker room cancer, so to speak, because I've seen the documentary and I know what he was like, and I know he brought success to the team, but I don't want any of that. Like Scottie Pippen, he felt like he was the second hand man, all this kind of stuff. So I want to trade Jordan as much as great as he is. Oh, LeBron and Kobe. I think it's tricky. I'm gonna bench Kobe and start LeBron. What LeBron is doing is just stupid. It's dumb, and we don't know what Kobe would have gone on to do. Obviously, bless his soul, but LeBron being able to, number one, play with your son is just crazy,
and could play with the next one,
and can play with the next
2025.
Like, he is a freak of nature. He's defying all basketball rules, and I don't know that much, but I know enough to say that. So I want whatever he's taken. I want that in my squad. So LeBron is being started 100%.
Okay, cool. And last but not least, who would you like to see or invite on this podcast?
Bro, literally, this is the same thing the exact same thing. At the end of my shows, this is, but it's great. I say great minds think alike. That's exactly how I would normally play it, because it's normally the same kind of ending. If you throw it the other way, all of a sudden it's like, oh crap, actually give me a platform. So I would like to see, I was actually thinking about this during the show.
It could be anyone.
It could be anyone.
Anyone you'd like to see, one, and anyone you'd like to invite.
I would like to invite, let me think who's in my book of... I'd like to invite Excel, number one, Coach Excel, because I know he's doing crazy things in the scene, and I don't feel like he gets the recognition he deserves.
Okay.
So
I'm definitely going to make that happen.
because he is doing crazy things. He also works with the Jags really closely now. He does a lot for them too, but him as a person, in terms of when it comes to sacrifice, dedicating time, giving back, there's nobody better than Coach Excel. That's just 100%. But who would I like to see? I would like to see, from any background, any sport, anything.
Any sport, any background.
It's funny because now I know how it feels when I do the same to other people. Anyone from... I would like to see... I'm trying to think. So I went to the London Lions final this year. I'm going to assume you either there, maybe too. The London Lions and the...
Euro Cup, you mean? Is it the women's Euro Cup?
No, the men's.
Yeah.
I was there for the final this year. I'm trying to think of...
Was it Euro Cup or the actual BBO?
No, the BBO.
Okay,
yeah. I'm trying to think of... I want it to be someone from the bottom. In fact, Benny.
Yeah.
Benny is who I want to see on this show, because I know for a fact, like, and I've had conversations with Benny about the whole NFL Africa thing and what we were saying earlier. Honestly, Benny just, I don't even know how to explain it. She doesn't, for me, again, she doesn't get any of the accolades I think she deserves. She's kind of like, you know that saying, lasagna moving in silence and all that kind of, I feel like she's very much like that. She does so much. And nobody, I say nobody, that's not true, but I don't think enough people understand, especially when it comes to NFL Africa, which is doing really well now, and NBA Africa, which I believe she pretty much helped with Kojo, is that right? That she helped with her brother, sorry. I think she helped. And it's taking me back to my very first show with her. She was explaining to me how it happened and how she went about it. And I just feel like, you know, in a world where people are trying to achieve certain things, it'd be great for people, to men and women, but obviously women in particular, in terms of Benny, to see what she's done. Yeah. I don't think she's ever... I don't recall the story being told.
No, honestly, because I'm still also thinking how all those
Bro, there's a lot of
people came together.
There is a lot of them.
Bemi that runs that's part of the NBA Africa as well. It's in Masai Ujiri as well from Toronto Raptors.
There's I'm a god, I can't pronounce his name, but she mentioned someone. Yeah. There was also I think she had she was involved with not Miami Heat. What's his name? They just unveiled his statue, and it was terrible. Oh,
Dwayne Wade.
Dwayne Wade, yeah. No, that's she did something with Li Ning, the brand, and him. Yeah. Honestly, Benny.
I see. We didn't know that. That's crazy. Yeah.
She did something with Li Ning and the brand. I remember.
That's actually nuts.
This is what I'm saying. Yeah. And I don't think enough people understand the impact that Benny has had. Yeah. Even like, I guess she was my first guest. She gave me the time. Okay. Benny for sure. Where did I meet Benny? I don't even. She just needs to be here. She's got to be on this show. I mean, she's probably somewhere in the world right now. She moves like countries like she's drinking water. But
I can imagine.
Benny, you need to be on the show 100%.
Okay, cool. Well, man, it's the end of our conversation. Yeah, man. We'll definitely do this again, though.
Definitely.
Yeah, thank you for literally coming down to like have a conversation with us. It's been very, very interesting for me, and I'm sure for the guys as well, and everyone that's going to be watching this as well. They're going to really enjoy this. But thank you everyone for watching. My name is Coach David. Make sure you actually comment on down below what you think about this episode. Connect with us on Instagram as well, at Basketball Nation with an X, and at Beyond the Athlete Pod on Instagram as well. Let us know what you think. And also, if you'd like to see anyone on this show as well, do let us know. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Coach David, speak to you soon. See you guys soon. Take care. Peace.